India succumbed to what can only be described as an embarrassing defeat. Welcome to the shiny side. I'm your host, Fareez Shah, and we have with us Omer Basir once again. How are you doing, Omer?
Hi, Fareez. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very well. I was just telling someone earlier that I feel like the world makes a lot more sense when South Africa dominate in Test cricket at home. And in spite of, I guess, what generally speaking, India's trajectory has been in cricket and South Africa is on the way down, but a commanding performance by South Africa.
Yeah, it's the final frontier, and we can see it, right? It's
Yeah.
us, but South Africa at home, exciting to watch those Pacers, man. I mean, love watching them, and yeah, good to see them. Good to see them do well.
Yeah. And keep in mind that this is a South Africa side without, so like if you think of South African fast bowling, there's Rabada, Nagidi, and Nokia. Two of them weren't even fit for this game. It was essentially Rabada alone was good enough to take on India.
Yeah, and I mean that's what he showed, right? He's a champion bowler, and that's what they do, right? Big match players, and yeah, I mean, but yeah, credit to the team that came in, the guys who stepped up to support
Yeah.
him. I think
Yeah.
overall good team performance, but he
Yeah.
led from the front.
And I just want to talk a little bit about the power dynamic in cricket right now. So there's obviously India with all its financial might taking Test cricket very seriously, trying to make sure they're strong in all formats. And then there's South Africa, who are right now in the next Test championship cycle only playing two Test series. They are also coming up with a Test tour to New Zealand that overlaps with their SAT20, and they're actually sending a second string Test side to New Zealand purely because they don't want to dilute the domestic competition, because that's what financially matters to them. And like I said, again, I touched on this before, right? But the South Africa taking this not so seriously, it seems like, and India's putting all their eggs in it. And even then, in South Africa dominating the way they did is insane. So I quickly kind of summarize the game in perhaps 55 seconds for the viewers. So India batted first, put in by South Africa. They were 24 for 3 and 164 for 7. KL Rahul scored a great counter-attacking 101. Rabada finished with 5 wickets. Andre Berger for 3 for 50. And they were 245 all out, which looked like a good score at that time. But South Africa were just too dominant with the bat. Dean Elgar, playing his last series, made 185. Babuma could not bat because of an injury. Janssen chipped in with 84 as well. And South Africa essentially uh, got a massive lead of about 250 or odd. India's batting second could only manage 131, Kohli 76, but that was about it. So uh, I guess, Umar, starting up at the top, how key do you think the toss was? Because I'm not sure if the condition changed a lot, but clearly India struggled on day one.
Yeah, I don't think toss was a big concern. I mean, you saw them collapse in the second innings as well. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe they got in South Africa to exploit a little bit of the conditions, but I don't think it was a big factor here.
And if you look at India's batting, right? So, I mean, coming in, except for Kohli, no one really has a strong record in South Africa, not even Rohit. I mean,
Yeah.
Rohit actually completely failed. Shubman Gill, Shreyas Iyer, and Jaiswal were all playing in South Africa the first time. None of them could really do much. So clearly, I mean, and these days teams don't have too much time to acclimatize. But India, except for Rahul and Kohli, really, no one could even keep up with South Africa with the bat.
Yeah, I mean, for somehow every time an Indian team steps on the field, it's assumed that everyone in the 11 is some type of world class number
Hmm.
one batsman. That's the impression, that's the hype always around them. I think it's mainly because of IPL and stuff. But yeah, like you said, that's a fact, right? A lot of these guys are playing in South Africa for the first time. Jaiswal's quite new in the team. Iyer, fairly new. Gill, maybe he's been around a little bit, but they're not that experienced or
Yeah.
been playing Test cricket for a very long time.
Yeah.
So this is what happens when you go into new conditions and get tested, and then you're not used to seeing it. KL Rahul has recently started arriving to the party, so good for him. Good for India to see him do that. But overall, I mean, yeah, I think this was a reflection of, I think, the inexperience, and maybe the all of a sudden the Pujaras and the Rahanes are gone, and there is
Yeah.
that void.
This is the first Test match they've played in 12 years abroad without Pujara or Rahane, by the way, and I think that's showing in the short term.
Yeah.
Now we have to talk about KG Rabada. I think if he was a bowler from Australia or India or England, there would be way more talk about him. If you look at the best strike rates in Test cricket, he's by far the only modern player. If you in fact take 100 wickets, anyone at 100 wickets or more, he's the only one with a strike rate of under 40. His strike rate is 39. I think he's ahead of guys like Steyn and Bakar, who are the only post World War II guys who we know who kind of right behind him. If you look at the top 50 averages and the top 20 strike rates. He's the only guy on both lists. So that's how strong his numbers are. What's your take on Rabada and how he's doing?
Yeah, he's been extremely consistent, and especially when they're playing in South Africa. I mean, he knows
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
what to do there. So, I mean, champion bowler again. We were recently talking about Mitch about Cummins and how good he's been, and I think Rabada and Cummins really stand out bowlers in today's era of just bowling well, taking wickets, finding ways to take wickets. That's the key.
And the thing is, South Africa went in with no spinner. They had 4 quicks, 2 of them, Kudza and the other one, I forget the name right now, really struggling.
Burger.
Burger. But Rabada were just so good and so relentless that they didn't really need that. And had India kind of stretched them a bit more, they may have missed that not having as Maharaj there, but it clearly didn't get to them. I guess talking about Rohit captaincy a little bit, this may not have been the best game for him in lots of ways, but I think a key point that people are talking about is once South Africa were batting, I think there was something like maybe 100 for 2 or so. And when India came back after lunch, this was the time to put some pressure. He's opened the bowling with Shardul and Prashit Krishna, which are probably the 2 weakest bowlers on the side. And that, I think South Africa made something like 140 in that session with loss of a wicket. Dean Elgar and I think Bedingham really went to town with these guys. So how would you rate his captaincy? And was that like a big miss for Rohit?
Yeah, it definitely seems like a big miss. I mean, I think everyone watching then was questioning what was going on because, first of all, Shardul Thakur making it and then coming on his first change, even bowling. I mean, he's not that bowler, right? I mean, he's a good, maybe 5th bowler, but he's not your top wicket taker. And he bowled quite a lot and he went for quite a lot. So quite bizarre, to be honest. We expect a lot more from Rohit. I think overall he's a great captain. And then, to partner him with your young bowler who doesn't have that much test experience. It was, I mean, it was strange. I mean, by the way, what happened with Jadeja doesn't really get dropped too often. Was he?
He got injured right before the game. He pulled a muscle.
Okay.
So otherwise it may have been Shardul and no Ashwin, perhaps, most likely. But so I think with India's bowling, I mean, I think Bumrah was decent, as was Siraj, but everybody else really went missing, I think, completely, right? So I think they really struggled to keep the runs in check. Coming back to South Africa, I feel like Jansen again showed his pedigree as an all-rounder, right? He in the second innings, he got Kohli, he got Gill, and he also got KL Rahul, or one of Iyer Rahul. He also got 85 not out in the only innings South Africa had, right? So I think he's really adding that brilliant balance to the side.
Yeah, I think having a quality all-rounder is key to all the, I think, top teams historically even always have a good all-rounder coming in the middle. So he's always taking wickets. That's the beauty of Jansen. I think he went for maybe more than he would have liked, but he's taking wickets, which is more important. And then, he's chipping in with keeper. Like in this case, he really supported Elgar well with that 84. And I mean, awesome.
And speaking of Elgar, he's playing his last series, scoring 184, first century on his home ground, never scored 100 here before. I think a brilliant game for him and very well supported by De Zouzi, who's playing his 3rd test, and Bedingham, who actually debuted in this game. So South Africa's batting old and new coming together quite well.
Yeah, a lot of professionals like leaving on a high, but if I was him and I scored 185, I'd be rethinking my retirement plans and seeing how can this stretch of form continue. But I mean, good. I think the team's coming well together. Of course, when he leaves, it might leave a void. Let's see how they do. I mean, South Africa performing well as a team is great for cricket.
South Africa's only away test series in this cycle apparently now that are left are I believe in West Indies and in Sri Lanka. So they're saying South Africa this is quite a favorable schedule for them. So if they can, and New Zealand, sorry. So if they can do well, they have a decent chance of making it to the final. But again, they need to take the format seriously. And I would be without Elgar, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, and with New Zealand, they can't send their A team, right? Because they've got a clash.
Exactly. But India's final frontier, they once again have failed to win it. Clearly, it's a 2-match series, so they can't even win the series. The next test is at Cape Town. India has never won there. Do you see more of the same, or do you think India will put up a better showing?
I think they can put up a better showing. I think looking at the South African lineup, again, there's a lot of inexperience within South African team as well. Yes, it's local conditions. So I think I do expect some, again, highs and lows from them as well. But again, the Indian team, maybe are they ready to capitalize when South Africa falters? That's the key to watch. When you have Kohli and Rohit Sharma, people like that in your team, I think you expect a little bit better. We saw glimpses from Kohli in that second innings. It's fun to watch. So I think, I expect India to do better, but I think it was a big failure in their bowling, right? This time, I mean, they need to find ways to take wickets and be disciplined. Maybe the selection needs to be looked at again, but yeah, I mean, I expect them to do better.
Okay, good stuff. Omer, thank you for being on the show. And for those of you watching, if you have a view on what changes India should make or where India went wrong, please leave a comment. Please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back before the test match talking about what India can do next. In the meantime, stay tuned to the shiny side.